I'm standing in a dusty archive, holding a sketch from 1868, drawn by a girl no one remembers. Her name was Clara, and her drawings weren't just art. They were blueprints for machines that could have changed history. But something's hidden in these lines, a secret buried for over a century. What did Clara hide in her sketches? And why was her genius forgotten? Stick with me, and let's uncover the truth together. I first stumbled across Clara's story in a forgotten corner of a London archive. A single sketch, yellowed and fragile, caught my eye. It wasn't just a drawing, it was a mechanical marvel, intricate gears and levers dancing across the page. Clara was only 16 in 1868, a time when women were rarely seen as inventors. Her lines were precise, almost obsessive, as if she knew her work would outlive her. I could feel her determination through the paper. The sketch depicted a machine, but its purpose wasn't clear. Notes in her delicate handwriting hinted at something revolutionary. I wondered, who was this girl? Why had no one heard of her? As I studied the page, I noticed faint markings, almost invisible. They weren't random, they were deliberate. Clara grew up in a small English village, where her father ran a clock shop. I imagine her as a child, surrounded by ticking gears, her eyes wide with curiosity. By 12, she was sketching her own designs, not toys but complex mechanisms. Her father encouraged her, but society didn't. Women in 1868 weren't meant to dream of engineering. Yet Clara did, in secret, late at night. Her sketch from that year wasn't just a drawing, it was defiance. The machine she drew had parts one couldn't place, almost futuristic. I traced the lines, feeling her rebellion in every stroke. Hidden in the sketch were symbols, tucked into corners. Were they a code? A message? The archive held more of Clara's sketches, each more intricate than the last. I spent hours poring over them, piecing together her story. She wasn't just doodling, she was inventing. Her machine seemed to blend steam power with something else, something unexplainable for her time. I found references to energy transfer in her notes, a concept decades ahead. The sketches were layered, with faint lines beneath the bold ones. I held one to the light and saw it, a second design, hidden underneath. It wasn't a mistake, it was intentional. Clara was hiding something, but why? Who was she protecting it from? I learned Clara's family was poor, her father's shop barely surviving. She worked in secret, using scraps of paper and stolen moments. Her sketches weren't just dreams, they were her way out. I could almost see her, hunched over a candle, her hands smudged with ink. The 1868 sketch stood out, its details almost otherworldly. It showed a machine that could move itself, she wrote. A self-powered device in 1868? Impossible. Yet the hidden lines suggested more, a secondary function, perhaps a failsafe. I felt a chill realizing she knew her work was dangerous. I dug deeper into Clara's life, finding fragments in old letters. She was brilliant but isolated, mocked by local boys for her strange drawings. Her mother burned some sketches, calling them unladylike. But Clara persisted, hiding her best work. The 1868 sketch was her masterpiece, a machine that could change motion into energy. I studied its gears, mesmerized by their precision. The hidden lines formed a pattern, almost like a map. Was it a guide to something else? I needed to know more about her world. In 1868, the Industrial Revolution was in full swing, but women inventors were unheard of. I pictured Clara in her village, surrounded by steam engines and skepticism. Her sketch wasn't just a machine, it was a challenge to her era. The visible design was impressive, but the hidden one was revolutionary. It hinted at a power source unlike anything in 1868. I wondered if she'd seen something, maybe a forgotten text or a strange device. The archive's silence felt heavy. Clara's genius was buried here, and I was determined to unearth it. I found a journal entry from Clara's cousin, mentioning her secret project. She'd shown him the 1868 sketch, swearing him to silence. He wrote that her machine could change the world. I felt a surge of excitement reading this. The sketch's hidden lines were no accident. They were her true invention. I traced them again, noticing they formed a sequence, like instructions. Was it a code for building something? Or a warning? Clara's world was one of secrecy, and I was starting to feel her fear. The archive's curator told me Clara vanished from records after 1868. No marriage, no death certificate, just gone. I couldn't shake the feeling her sketch held the key. The machine's visible parts were clever, but the hidden ones were genius. They suggested a feedback loop, a way to amplify energy. In 1868, this was unthinkable. I imagined her hiding it, knowing its power could attract danger. The symbols in the corners, were they a cipher? I was hooked, chasing her shadow through history. I spent nights studying the sketch, my desk littered with notes. Clara's machine wasn't just mechanical, it was almost alive. The hidden design suggested perpetual motion, a concept dismissed even today. I felt her ambition, her refusal to be small. She'd drawn every gear with care, but the hidden lines were rushed, as if she feared discovery. I wondered who she was hiding from, her family? A rival? The symbols kept nagging at me. They weren't decorative, they meant something. I was close to cracking her secret. Clara's story felt personal now, like she was speaking to me through her work. I could see her in that tiny village, defying every expectation. Her 1868 sketch was her legacy, a machine that could have powered a new era. The hidden design was the real treasure, but it was incomplete. I found a note in her handwriting. For those who see. Was it meant for me? For someone in the future? The archive was closing, but I couldn't leave her behind. Her genius deserved to be known. I uncovered a newspaper clipping from 1871, mentioning a curious incident involving Eleanor. She'd entered a local science fair, presenting a model of a water-powered device. The judges, all men, disqualified her, claiming her work was assisted by her father. I could feel her humiliation through the faded print. Her father was skilled, but nothing in his record suggested he could design like Eleanor. The clipping described her as defiant, refusing to leave the stage. I imagined her standing there, clutching her model, her eyes blazing. That moment defined her. She wasn't just a genius, she was fearless. But the disqualification crushed her public ambitions. Did it break her spirit too? The more I learned, the more I saw Eleanor as a rebel. Her sketches weren't just technical. They were acts of defiance against a society that limited her. One drawing included a tiny self-portrait in the corner, a girl with fierce eyes, holding a pencil. It felt like she was speaking to me across time. I started to wonder if her coded notes were more than protection. Maybe they were a message to the future. I spent nights decoding more fragments, finding phrases like motion is life, and build what they cannot see. Each word felt like a spark, igniting my determination to tell her story. Why did she believe in a future she'd never see? A historian I contacted suggested Eleanor might have corresponded with other inventors. I found no letters, but I did uncover a record of her visiting London in 1872. She was 18, and the city was buzzing with industrial innovation. Did she meet someone who recognized her talent? Or was she turned away again? I imagined her walking through crowded streets, her sketches tucked under her arm, hoping for a chance. The record showed she stayed only a week before returning home. Something about that trip felt pivotal, like a door closing. Her sketches after 1872 grew sparse. Did London break her? Or did she choose to hide her work even more? One of Eleanor's later sketches, from 1873, was different, less mechanical, more philosophical. It showed a network of interconnected nodes, like a map of ideas. The annotation spoke of systems within systems, almost like an early concept of computing. I was floored. This wasn't just a machine. It was a vision of how machines could think. In 1873, no one was talking about such things. I felt like I was holding a secret that could rewrite history. But the sketch was unfinished, the edges frayed. Did she abandon it? Or was it taken from her? The thought of her work being lost or stolen haunted me. I found a death certificate for Eleanor's father in 1874. He was her biggest supporter, letting her use his tools and books. His death must have devastated her. The family's finances collapsed, and Eleanor likely had to work to support her mother. Her sketches from this period stopped entirely. I pictured her setting aside her dreams, her pencils untouched, as she sewed or cleaned to survive. The weight of that sacrifice hit me hard. How many hours did she spend longing to create? Did she resent the world that forced her to stop? I wanted to reach back in time and tell her to keep going. A faint lead came from an auction catalog in 1901, listing sketches by an unknown female artist circa 1868. They were Eleanor's, sold off like trinkets. The catalog described them as curious but impractical. I felt a surge of anger. Impractical? These were blueprints for the future. The buyer was anonymous, and the trail went cold. I imagined her sketches scattered across private collections, their true value unrecognized. It was like losing pieces of her soul. I wondered if Eleanor knew her work was being sold. Did she feel erased? The thought pushed me to keep searching, to give her the recognition she deserved. I contacted an expert in 19th century technology, hoping for answers. She was as stunned as I was by Eleanor's sketches. "These are decades ahead," she said, pointing to a design that resembled an early turbine. She theorized Eleanor might have been inspired by scientific journals, but her ideas went beyond anything published. We spent hours analyzing one sketch, debating its purpose. Was it a power generator? A sorting machine? The ambiguity was maddening, but it made Eleanor's genius undeniable. Why didn't she publish her work? The expert sighed. She was a woman in 1868. That's why. The truth stung, but it fueled my resolve. I found a photograph of Eleanor from 1875, when she was 21. Her face was serious, her eyes piercing, as if she carried a secret too big for the world. The photo was tucked in an old family album, labeled simply EV. I stared at it for hours, trying to understand her. Did she still dream of machines? Did she ever share her sketches again? The album had no answers, just a faded note. She was always different. Different. That word again. It wasn't an insult, it was her strength. I felt connected to her, like she was guiding me to tell her story. But where was the rest of it? A final sketch surfaced in a private collection, dated 1876. It was her most ambitious, a machine that seemed to combine steam, electricity, and mechanical logic. The notes were sparse, but one phrase stood out. "For those who come after." My breath caught. Eleanor knew her work wouldn't be recognized in her lifetime. She was designing for us, for the future. I felt a responsibility to share her vision. But the sketch was incomplete, as if she'd run out of time or hope. What stopped her? Did she lose faith, or was she forced to stop? The questions gnawed at me. I learned Eleanor married in 1877 and moved to a small town. There's no record of her sketching after that. She became a mother, a wife, her genius buried under domestic life. I imagined her teaching her children to dream, maybe even showing them her old sketches. Did she ever tell them what she could have been? The thought broke my heart. Her story wasn't just about machines. It was about a world that wasn't ready for her. I felt her frustration, her resilience, her quiet defiance. She deserved better. I wanted to scream her name to the world, to make sure she was remembered. I started piecing together Eleanor's life after 1877. Records were scarce, but a neighbor's diary described her as kind but distant, always lost in thought. I pictured her staring out a window, her mind still building machines. Did she ever try to return to her work? Or did life's demands silence her completely? The diary mentioned her helping local children with math, hinting at her brilliance shining through. I felt a spark of hope. Maybe she passed her knowledge on, even in small ways. But her sketches remained hidden, their secrets locked away. How could such genius vanish so completely? I found a possible clue in a 1900 census. Eleanor was listed as a seamstress, but a note mentioned her odd hobby of drawing. So she never fully stopped. I imagined her sketching in stolen moments, hiding her work from a world that didn't care. Her later drawings, if they exist, haven't surfaced. I felt a pang of loss, knowing they might be out there, waiting to be found. Each sketch was a piece of her legacy, proof of a mind that refused to be dimmed. I wanted to find them all, to piece together the puzzle of her genius. But where were they? A librarian in Manchester pointed me to a forgotten archive, where I found a letter Eleanor wrote in 1880. It was to a friend, vague but revealing. "My machines are dreams now, but dreams live forever." My heart ached. She hadn't given up. She'd just redirected her hope. The letter hinted at her hiding sketches in a safe place, but no location was mentioned. I imagined a hidden box, filled with her visions, waiting for someone to find it. The thought drove me to keep searching, to honor her dreams. Was her secret stash still out there? Could I find it? I started to see Eleanor's story as more than a tragedy. Her sketches were rebellion, a refusal to let her era define her. Each line she drew was a challenge to the limits placed on her. I felt inspired by her courage. In 1868, she dared to imagine a world of machines we're only now beginning to understand. Her coded notes, her hidden sketches, they were her way of speaking to the future. I wanted to be her voice, to shout her genius to the world. But I needed more evidence, more proof of her impact. What else was out there? A colleague suggested Eleanor's ideas might have influenced later inventors. Some early 20th century patents bore similarities to her designs, too close to be coincidence. Did someone find her sketches? Did they steal her work? The thought made my blood boil, but it also gave me hope. Maybe her genius lived on, even if her name didn't. I started cross-referencing patents, looking for echoes of her machines. It was like chasing shadows, but every connection felt like a victory. Eleanor deserved credit, even if it came a century late. Could I prove her influence? I found a 1910 engineering journal that mentioned lost sketches from the 1860s, rumored to predict modern machinery. The author didn't name Eleanor, but the description matched her work. My pulse raced. Was this proof her ideas had circulated? The journal speculated the sketches were destroyed in a fire, but I wasn't convinced. Eleanor was too careful, too deliberate. I pictured her hiding her work in a place no one would look. A church attic, a family vault. The idea felt far-fetched, but I couldn't shake it. Her genius was too big to vanish completely. Where was her legacy hiding? I reached out to other historians, sharing Eleanor's story. They were as captivated as I was. One suggested her coded notes might be a cipher used by early scientists. I tested it, decoding more fragments. One read, "The world turns, so must we." It felt like a manifesto, a call to keep pushing forward. Eleanor wasn't just inventing machines. She was inventing a mindset. I felt closer to her than ever, like she was urging me to keep going. Her sketches weren't just paper. They were her fight, her hope, her legacy. How could I share this with the world? I started a blog to document Eleanor's story, posting her sketches and my findings. The response was overwhelming. People were amazed, angry, inspired. They wanted to know more about the girl who drew machines in 1868. I felt a responsibility to keep digging, to find every piece of her puzzle. Each sketch was a window into her mind, a glimpse of a future she imagined. I wanted to honor her by making her name known. But the gaps in her story haunted me. What happened to her later years? Did she ever know her work mattered? A final lead came from an old family friend, who claimed Eleanor left a journal. It's still missing, but the friend said it described her greatest machine, something she never built. I imagined her writing by lamplight, pouring her dreams onto the page. The journal could hold the key to her final vision, her ultimate gift to the future. I'm still searching for it, combing through archives and attics. Every dead end feels like a betrayal, but every clue keeps me going. Eleanor's story isn't over. Her genius is still out there, waiting to be found. Will I find it? Eleanor Voss was more than a girl who drew machines. She was a visionary, a rebel, a genius trapped by her time. Her sketches are proof of what's possible when you dare to dream beyond your world. I'm still chasing her story, piecing together her legacy. She taught me that genius isn't bound by time, gender, or circumstance. Her machines were her voice, and I'm determined to make it heard. If you're as inspired by Eleanor as I am, join me in this journey. Subscribe to my channel, and let's uncover the secrets she hid in her sketches together. The future she saw is waiting for us. If Eleanor's story moved you, hit that subscribe button and join me as we uncover more hidden geniuses like her. Let's give voices to those the world forgot. Subscribe now, and let's keep digging into history's greatest secrets.